Chapter 5, Where Love Burned Like Wildfire. I wish I could tell you that the story started with love. It didn't. It started with a hotel room, one of those rooms that make you feel richer than you actually are. Big open spaces, a jacuzzi, bottles everywhere, music loud enough that bad decisions didn't sound dangerous, soft candy everywhere. That night wasn't supposed to belong to one person. Earlier that evening, I already had plans, maybe two, maybe three. At that point in my life, possibilities felt safer than attachments. Attachments disappear, possibilities don't. I've survived heartbreak, I've survived losing people, I survived learning that trust sometimes expires without warning. So I built a philosophy that felt honest. Transactional is safer. Then Honey called. When she said she wasn't alone, that somebody was with her. I didn't know that sentence was about to rearrange years of my life. When Monty walked in, the first thing I noticed wasn't her face. It was gravity. People looked, rooms changed when certain people walk into them. This room changed. I was performing, we played games, I rapped, people laughed. The room kept changing. People came, people left, music changed, liquor disappeared, more people showed up. The night stopped feeling like a gathering and started feeling like weather. Wild, loud, moving too fast. She wasn't acting like we just met. She stayed close, protective, possessive even. Because I had lost something before I met her. I lost Jay, I lost certainty, I lost my sister. I lost that feeling that somebody would fight for me before asking questions. Then suddenly, this beautiful woman was looking at me like she already picked a side. I thought I met a woman that night. What I actually met was an answer to several losses at the same time. And answers are dangerous when you need them too badly. What caught me wasn't beauty. What caught me was something more dangerous. She started removing conditions. At first there was money, then there wasn't. One day she came over because she wanted me. Because you've because when you've spent enough time believing that love has requirements, unconditional attention feels supernatural. Someone wanted money badly, and something primitive happened inside of me. I stopped thinking, this is somebody I can call. I started thinking, this is somebody I can lose. That changed everything. I became serious, not healthy serious, survival serious. I started trying to make myself irreplaceable. If she came over, I wanted her to stay. If she stayed, I wanted her to return. Maybe I could finally stop losing people. When things were good with money, they were almost unfair. She bought gifts, she bought food, she cleaned, she drank, she played music, she tried to please me. Most people think wildfire begins with destruction. It doesn't. Wildfire begins with warmth, and Mani felt warm, like victory, like proof, like getting my rider back. The first major sign probably should have scared me. Instead, it made me invest harder. I took her to the D to see her family. She told me I was real because by then I wasn't trying to win sex anymore. I was trying to win permanence. Detroit also gave me a preview. She drank too much. Things became louder, meaner. Arguments appeared from nowhere. During moments that should have felt close, things became disrespectful. Then, almost as quickly as it happened, it disappeared. Apologies came, affection returned, or what I decided was normal. Why would I leave? I finally had somebody that wanted me aggressively, protected me aggressively, desired me aggressively, loved me aggressively. The problem was other things started arriving aggressively too. I thought the fire was keeping me warm. I didn't realize I already started burning. Chapter 6, House of Desire. I wish I could tell you this chapter started with a warning. It didn't. It started with hope. Not the loud kind, not the desperate kind, the kind of hope that sneaks into your life wearing sweatpants and cooking dinner. The kind that makes you believe you finally found a place to put down your armor. When I met Classy, life was good. Not perfect, but good. I was making money, driving trucks, working long weeks, building a future one paycheck at a time. The kind of life where every dollar had purpose and every hour belonged to somebody else. I wasn't rich. I wasn't successful yet. Success looked like a beach somewhere. Success looked like finally enjoying the life I had spent years building. I wasn't there yet, but I could see it from where I stood. Then I met Sassy. The first date wasn't elegant. No fancy restaurant, no fairy tale, just two people figuring each other out. What caught my attention wasn't that she was beautiful, though she was. What caught my attention was that she seemed willing to meet me halfway. There was something about her that felt easy, something playful, a little classy, a little nasty, exactly the kind of combination I thought I wanted. The more time we spent together, the more she felt less like somebody I was dating and more like somebody who belonged in my everyday life. Then her phone got cut off. When I finally got in touch with her, I learned she was in danger of losing her apartment. Most people would tell that story like it was a financial decision. It wasn't. Not for me. The truth was, I didn't want to lose the connection. I didn't want distance. I didn't want distractions. I didn't want another person slipping through my fingers because life got complicated. So I paid the bill, then another, and another. Not because I thought I was buying love. I thought I was protecting it. At least that's what I told myself. For a while, it felt like the best decision ever I had made. The happiest memory I have is of Classy isn't sexual. It's a card game. My nephew and his pregnant girlfriend were staying with me during one of those seasons where trouble seemed to follow them around like a storm cloud. The house was full, food was everywhere, people were laughing, I was teaching spades, and Sassy moved through the room like she'd always belonged there, not as a guest, not as somebody trying to impress me, as family. She made everybody comfortable. She checked on people. She laughed easily. She fit. Looking back, that was probably the moment I stopped imagining years. I stopped imagining weekends and started imagining years. Because the thing I loved most about Classy wasn't her body. It wasn't the sex. All of those were top 10, though. It wasn't even the attention. It was the certainty. Whenever we made plans, she treated them like promises. She said, she once told me that if we scheduled time together, she didn't care if the president called. Nothing would stop her from spending that time with me. Maybe that sounds small. It wasn't. Not to me. Life had already taught me that people leave, people change, people disappear. But Classy made me feel like I always knew where I stood. For a man who spent most of his life bracing for disappointment, that certainty felt like love. The first crack became when she disappeared. She went to Chicago. I gave her permission stupidly. Then the phone died. At first I wasn't thinking about another man. I was worried. I called her. Then I called again. Then I called her mom. The version of the story people tell later is usually cleaner than that. The truth is that fear came first. Suspicion came second. When she finally called back, she said I was being dramatic. Her phone died. Her cousin picked her up. Everything was fine. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. The problem wasn't that I could prove she was lying. The problem was that I couldn't make myself completely believe her. That's a dangerous place to be with somebody you love. Not knowing, not trusting, not leaving. Just standing in the middle between faith and doubt. Looking back, that was the night I started protecting myself. Then Lexi entered the picture. Classy called her sister, a lifeline. The kind of friend that becomes family when life gets hard. I understood that. What I didn't understand was how much room that family was about to take up inside a relationship that was already struggling to make room for itself. The truth is, Lexi didn't enter my life as temptation. She entered my life as a friend. She entered my life as a friend. Life had been rough on her. You could see it. She was funny, down to earth, resourceful. The kind of woman who learned how to stretch a dollar because life never gave her enough of them. Somehow she seemed exhausted by life itself. Other days she laughed like she'd never been hurt. I liked her, I respected her, and over time our friendship grew in plain sight. No secret meetings, no hidden phone calls, just conversations, long conversations. The kind that happen when people spend enough time around each other to stop performing. Then Sassy disappeared again. This time she left town after moving Lexi into the house. And for the first time, I found myself alone with a woman I really liked, already understood, and already trusted. Looking back, the line wasn't crossed in my bedroom. The line was crossed in my mind. I started creating stories that made bad decisions easier. Maybe Sassy knew what she was doing. Maybe she expected something to happen. Maybe this was permission. The truth is, temptation rarely sounds like temptation. Most of the time, it sounds like justification. Like the line finally got crossed. It happened fast. Too fast. The truth is, I wasn't just sleeping with Lexi. I was using my relationship with Lexi to influence my relationship with Classy. That sounds ugly when you say it now. I was using my relationship with Lexi to influence my relationship with Sassy. Yeah, that sounds ugly when I say it now. Because I was Classy because it was. Classy listened to Lexi. If Lexi approved something, Classy became more open to it. And somewhere along the way, love got tangled up with leverage. I convinced myself I had found a shortcut. What I actually found was another complicated human being, because Lexi wasn't Classy. She appreciated what I provide, but she wasn't interested in living under the same rules. She wasn't interested in being controlled, and eventually all the contradictions started piling up on top of each other. Then everything exploded. Ironically, it wasn't the affair that caused the explosion. It was a house rule. I told them from the beginning that I don't do surprise male visitors. Then one day that rule got broken. An argument started. Then the argument became war. Voices got louder. Respect got smaller. Everybody stopped listening. Lexi started throwing insults. I started throwing truths. The problem with very truths is that once they become ammunition, they stop belonging to the people involved. They belong to the room. And that room was about to hear everything. For months, I had convinced myself I was managing the situation, managing the relationship, managing the friendship, managing the secret. The argument taught me something different. Nothing was under control. Not for me, not them, not the story I kept telling myself. Because the moment the truth surfaced, everybody stopped fighting about these rules and started fighting about betrayal. For a long time, I told myself, I told the story like I was exposing a betrayal, because that version hurts less. The older I get, the more honest the story becomes. The truth is that I wanted to win. I wanted to be right. I wanted everybody in that room to know I wasn't crazy. I wanted proof, and I had it, so I used it. The problem is that some truths are hand grenades. Once you pull the pin and throw them, it doesn't matter who was right. The room still explodes. No matter how loud the argument got, no matter how unfair I felt things had become, I could have survived that fight. I could have survived the insults. I could have survived being misunderstood. I could have survived another difficult conversation. What I couldn't survive was what happened after the truth came out. Because the moment I decided to win, I lost something I actually loved. That's the part nobody tells you about certain arguments. You can be completely right and still destroy something worth keeping. After everything settled, Classy drifted back through my life, only briefly. A borrowed dollar, a payback favor, small moments, ghosts of a relationship that once felt permanent. House of Desire isn't a story about sex. It isn't a story about cheating. It isn't even a story about betrayal. It's a story about what happened when I stopped following the script. And by the time I realized that what the script was trying to protect, the curtain had already fallen. Chapter 7, The Road Through Asia. I met Asia through Cinnamon. Most people knew Cinnamon with the H. Cinnamon had known me long enough to understand my weaknesses, my strengths, and my patterns. She knew that if I cared about a woman, I would invest in her. I would help her. I would look out for her. She also knew that Asia was looking for something she hadn't quite found yet. One night, I dropped in on Cinnamon's house. There were people hanging out, smoking, drinking, and doing what people do when they're trying to forget about tomorrow for a few hours. I came by to contribute to the party and enjoy the company. Nothing about that night felt especially important until I met her. Asia wasn't loud. She wasn't trying to command attention. She caught my attention what caught my attention was something quieter. She seemed vulnerable, open, curious. There was a softness about her that made me want to know more. Before that night was over, we exchanged numbers. For the first few days, we talked on the phone. Nothing extraordinary, just conversations, questions, laughter. The kind of talks that slowly turn a stranger into someone you look forward to hearing from. A few days later, she called an Uber to my house, and that was when I first saw it. Not attraction, not chemistry, admiration. The way she looked around my home told me everything. She loved the house. She loved the stability. She loved the feeling of walking into a place that felt established and secure. I didn't think she was impressed by my age. I don't think she was sitting there thinking about my life experience. What she responded to was simpler than that. She saw a life that felt stable. And stability is something she deeply admired. For a man who had spent years building his life one brick at a time, that feeling landed harder than I expected. I had spent much of my adult life working, providing, recovering from mistakes, building again. Most people benefited from those efforts. Asia celebrated them. There's a difference. And there is a difference between being loved and being appreciated. Asia appreciated me. She decorated for my birthday. She gave me Valentine's Day cards. She thanked me for things other people often treated as ordinary. She made me feel seen, not just for what I provided, but for who I was. The last people I could remember celebrating me that openly were my mother when I graduated and when I got my first apartment. Years later, Asia brought some of that feeling back. What surprised me most was how quickly she brought out a different version of me. More confident version, a more social version, a happier version. We made TikToks together. We laughed constantly. We had She had a good sense of humor and wasn't afraid to be silly. A lot of people tolerate your interests. Asia participated in mine. That mattered more than I realized at the time. One of my favorite memories happened on an ordinary day. I had bought her some clothes and some hair. Earlier, we had spent the day at the pool. We laughed, talked, and enjoyed each other's company without any drama hanging over us. Later, she was getting ready for the holiday gathering. She could barely contain her excitement. She kept checking the mirror, kept smiling, kept asking if I was ready to see her. When she finally stepped out, she looked good and she knew it. But what made me happiest wasn't how she looked, it was how excited she was for me to see her. She wanted my reaction, she wanted my approval. She wanted me to know she appreciated what I had done for her. And in that moment, I realized something I wouldn't fully understand until years later. A person that can feed a hunger inside you that you didn't even know existed. For me, that hunger wasn't sex, it wasn't attention, it wasn't validation, it was appreciation. And appreciation is a powerful thing, especially when you spent years convincing yourself you don't need it. Chapter 8, The Test of Lightning. Jade was the only woman who could tell me I was special and stupid in the same breath. Normally, I don't take advice from people I wouldn't trade places with, but Jade was one of the few people in my life who criticized me so heavily that I knew it would do nothing but sharpen my blade. Jade, I met Jade in late 2012 while working at a company called Denial. I had gotten the job through Jay's cousin, Nija. We worked with people who had developmental and mental disabilities. At the time, I was young, ambitious, working every hour I could find. Jay wasn't just a coworker, she was above me in the company's hierarchy. She carried herself with confidence. People paid attention when she spoke. One day while we were at McDonald's, another coworker named Monique pulled me to the side and told me that she liked me. Then she laughed and said Jade had already stuck claim on me. The funny thing it was, Jade and I had barely spoken. Back then, I thought I was slick. My original plan wasn't to date either one of them. My plan was to get a hotel room, buy some liquor, invite both women, and see if I could talk my way into a threesome. I told Monique my plan and to pass the message on to Jade. Instead, I got Jade's number. Then something happened I wasn't expecting. We talked and talked and talked. One conversation turned into an all-night phone call. By the time the sun came up, Jade had decided she didn't want to share me with anybody. The truth is, I didn't put up much of a fight. She was beautiful, confident, experienced, and she made me feel chosen. At 25 years old, that felt like winning the lottery. Years later, Jade admitted something to me. When she first got involved with me, she thought I would be an easy mark. I was young, I had no children, I worked 4 jobs, I lived by myself. From her perspective, I looked like a man with resources who could be easily influenced by a fine-ass woman. The part neither of us expected was that somewhere along the way, she actually fell in love with me. And if I'm being fair, I fell in love with her too. When Jade was at her best, she was incredible. She greeted me at the door with affection. She kept the house spotless. She encouraged me. She bragged about me. She made me feel desired. She made me feel important. She made me feel like I was building something with somebody who genuinely wanted me. She even sought advice from her friends about how to keep me happy because she was terrified of losing me. That version of Jade was easy to love. The problem was that Jay had another side too. Alcohol has a way of bringing it out. The sweet woman who made me feel appreciated could become forceful, confrontational, and impossible to reason with. Small disagreements could become major battles. Opinions became demands. Arguments became explosions. Our relationship became a cycle of love, conflict, reconciliation, and repetition. At one point, she moved into my house. At another point, I put her out. Later, she wanted to come back. Then I put her out again. Eventually, she moved down the street from where I live. We spent years trying to figure out whether we were lovers, friends, enemies, teammates, or some strange combination of all four. Neither one of us seemed willing to let the story end. One thing that complicated everything was sex. Jade believed I cared about sex too much. If you asked her what my biggest flaw was, that's probably what she would say. If you asked me what my biggest frustration was, I'd tell you that affection often felt conditional. Sometimes it felt like I had to make sure every need was met of hers before my needs mattered. No, neither one of us was entirely right. Neither one of us was entirely wrong. We were two imperfect people trying to force a relationship to work long after the owner's manual had been lost. The worst moments usually involved alcohol. Friday nights became legendary for all the wrong reasons. Arguments, accusations, property damage, chaos. One night things got so bad, Jade chased me out the house with a knife. I ran to my car. She slashed my tires. During the confrontation, she cut my hand. Looking back, I don't think it was about the picture that she found in my phone, which was a picture of me and my homeboy holding up a long cigar that we had put together. I think it was control. I think it was about rage. I think it was about two people who no longer knew how to hurt each other without hurting themselves in the process. Most relationships would have ended there. Ours didn't. For years, we continued finding our way back to each other. Sometimes as lovers, sometimes as friends, sometimes as something in between. But the moment that changed everything happened in a hotel room. Years into our relationship, I shared one of my private fantasies with Jade. I liked the idea of a night where there was no resistance, no arguing, no negotiating, just a playful fantasy where somebody said yes to every request. We turned it into an experience. What happened afterward mattered far more than the fantasy itself. An argument broke out. Jade had been drinking, and that night she unloaded on me. She called me weak. She questioned my manhood. She criticized choices that I had made. She spoke from a place of disappointment, frustration, and anger. The words hit harder because they came from someone I loved. A stranger couldn't have hurt me like that. Jade could. I carried part of that conversation with me for years. Not because I agreed with everything she said. I didn't. Not because she was fair. She wasn't. But because she was honest about how she felt in that moment. Drunk honesty, angry honesty, exaggerated honesty, but honesty nonetheless. And strangely enough, I forgave her. Not immediately, not because I believed she was right, but because I understood she wasn't trying to destroy me. She was expressing disappointment in the only way she knew how. That night became the moment she laced up my boots. After Jade, no woman could ever hurt me in the same way. Not because I became cold, not because I stopped caring, but because I had already survived lightning. The criticism, the rejection, the disappointment, the realization that somebody who loves you can still think you're wrong, the realization that somebody would you somebody can wound you and still be your friend. Years passed, the romance slowly faded, the friendship remained. Her son, Duce, grew up, and to this day he still tells me he loves me when he sees me. Life kept going. The relationship transformed into something neither of us expected. One day I was taking Jay to a doctor's appointment. A nurse made a comment, and Jay introduced me as her husband. For almost 13 years, Jade had told everyone who would listen that one day I would be exactly that, her husband. Without thinking, I shook my head no. I wasn't trying to embarrass her. I wasn't trying to hurt her. I was simply telling the truth. At some point, the dream had stopped being real for me. Later, after she got the apartment that she lives in now, she brought it up. She told me that the day I shook my head in the doctor's office was the day she realized I wasn't going to marry her. The day she realized I wasn't coming back in the way she had always hoped. That conversation hurt me, not because I wanted to marry her, but because I knew that I had finally broken a dream she had carried for over a decade. And for the first time, I realized something too. Jade would never love me in the same way again. Not because she stopped loving me, because she finally stopped waiting for me. There is an old story about a bird flying south for the winter. The bird freezes and falls from the sky. The cow comes along and drops manure on him. The warmth saves his life. The bird starts singing because he's happy. The cat hears him, pulls him out of the manure, and eats him. The lesson is simple. Everyone who shits on you isn't your enemy. Everyone who gets you out of shit isn't your friend. And when you're in deep shit, sometimes it's best to keep quiet. Jade taught me that lesson better than anyone. She criticized me, she challenged me, she embarrassed me, loved me, supported me, disappointed me, protected me, and sharpened me. She was a friend disguised as a lover, and by the time our story was over, she had laced my boots so tight that no one who came after her could ever hurt me in the same way again. Chapter 9. End scene. My father used to say something that I didn't fully understand. Be glad when a woman leaves your life. That's more money in your pocket. Back then, I thought he was talking about dollars, dates, gas money, birthdays, hair appointments, cash requests, the visible expenses. What I couldn't see was that he wasn't really talking about money at all. He was talking about resources, time in your pocket, energy in your pocket, focus in your pocket, peace in your pocket, life in your pocket. At the time, I couldn't appreciate what he meant because I was busy building futures. Every woman wasn't just a woman to me. She was a blueprint, a possibility, a 5-year plan, a life I could already see in my head. After Jay, there was an unspoken verdict floating around my family. Jay counted, maybe Jade counted. Everybody else seemed to be measured against those relationships and found lacking. No matter who I brought around, no matter how beautiful she was, no matter how young she was, no matter how impressive she looked standing beside me, nobody seemed convinced. The truth is, I wasn't convinced either. So I kept building. Another woman, another plan, another future, another set of blueprints spread across the table, and every time I walked into a room with a beautiful woman on my arm, I thought I was introducing her. Looking back, I was introducing evidence. Evidence that I was doing okay. Evidence that I had made it. Evidence that I could build another life. evidence that I was still worthy after the collapse of the last one. I thought I was showing people the woman. The truth was, I was trying to show them me. Where you at? It's your boy J Fat. God bless you. God bless y'all. Check this out. We going a little bit long, so shit. Why don't you finish getting chapter 9 and getting chapter 10? I'ma release it on another one. I think that you'll like them. They very good chapters. You got a little preview. But go ahead, cut this off, and I'ma catch y'all with another one. God bless y'all. Tell somebody else God bless them. Where you at? It's your boy J Fat. J Figgity and a Biggity. You heard?